The war in Iran raising pressure on Ukraine while Russia prepares a new offensive. Both conflicts were on the agenda at a summit of the European Union in Brussels. There was consensus, though, on the energy crisis sparked by the war in the Middle East. The bloc's 27 nations called for a moratorium on strikes on energy and water infrastructure and for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. However, there was outrage after Viktor Orban had refused to lift his veto on funds for Ukraine in its war effort against Russia. Some leaders went as far as to accuse the Hungarian prime minister of blackmail. Here are some of the reactions.
That's why it's completely unacceptable what Hungary is doing, and this behavior cannot be accepted by the leaders. And that's why the leaders were very clear today in the Council, condemning clearly the behavior of Hungary in this matter.
3 countries would not participate in the loan. That condition has been fulfilled. So let us be clear about where we stand. The loan remains blocked because one leader is not honoring his word. But let me reiterate what I already said in Kyiv. We will deliver one way or the other.
Joining me on set is our international affairs editor, Kethevane Gorjestani. Hello to you, Kethevane. This is not the first time that Viktor Orban has derailed EU plans. It probably won't be the last time either.
No, but there is something a little bit different this time that might explain the level of outrage and of frustration from other European leaders. Obviously, Orban has at numerous times blocked help for Ukraine or pushback against Russia because he is close to Russia. But this time, there was something different. That deal, that 90 billion euro deal, that deal was agreed on back in December, and even Viktor Orban had actually eventually agreed with Hungary even getting a sort of opt-out on the cost of the loan in order to get his agreement, to get him on board. So it's that U-turn that really has angered European leaders. We heard Antonio Costa there talking. He said a deal is a deal, and all the leaders need to honor that word. The German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, he's called it an act of gross disloyalty, and the French president, Emmanuel Macron, said, when heads of state reach a decision, it must be honored. Now, Orban justified his change of heart by focusing on the Druzhba pipeline. That's the pipeline that carries Russian oil from Russia to Hungary and Slovakia through Ukraine. And Orban summed it up this way on X. He said, no oil equals no money. Orban claiming that Ukraine is stalling on reparations, on fixing that pipeline that was damaged by Russian strikes. But most European leaders don't buy that explanation. They believe that Orban is using this as a political tool because obviously you have that election in Hungary on April 12th, and they believe that Orban focusing on this sort of anti-EU stance is to help him because his party is trailing in the polls. The Finnish prime minister put it this way. He said he's using Ukraine as a weapon in his election campaign.
And this is a lot of money at a crucial time for Ukraine. If you listen to what was coming out of Brussels, they make it sound like it's not a done deal. So what can the EU do?
Well, first of all, the Europeans tried to get in front of that sort of Hungarian U-turn by offering technical and financial support to the Ukrainians to help fix and repair that pipeline, help that the Ukrainians accepted, but Orban called it a fairy tale, and it didn't prevent, in the end, him from changing his mind. The Europeans are also now calling on the European Commission to examine ways to possibly implement this loan without needing unanimous voting within the 27 members, therefore bypassing Orban's veto and possibly also a Slovakian veto. It's unclear whether they will be able to find that loophole, but they are pushing for someone to figure out a legal way of getting around that. There's also hope that Viktor Orban, of course, loses on April 12th, and is replaced by someone who is more pro-European, more pro-Ukrainian, and less of a thorn in the side of the other European leaders. But even that is a little bit tricky because time is obviously of the essence. The estimate is that Ukraine is going to start running out of money as early as the beginning of May. And in order to have that loan unlocked by the beginning of May, the European leaders would have to agree on it mid-April. Mid-April, of course, is pretty much the election in Hungary. So all eyes will be on that election to try to act very quickly after that if the result goes in the way of the pro-European, pro-Ukrainian crowd.